Does anybody know whether or not the elevation is higher in North Kansas City? Maybe the Royals should go up to the Northland just so they can, have a little extra juice in the ball. Help them hit a little bit. They desperately need it. Good morning. It's great to be here on KCMO. Of course, the Royals lose to the Yankees last night 4-1. We're not going to get into that. We're not. But I bring up the Northland because suddenly the Northland is back in the conversation to potentially land the Kansas City Royals. Now, this came after many of you over the weekend sent me screenshots on your phones of a poll that was being sent out to Clay County residents who were out there saying, wait, I didn't think this was ever going to – wait. We're back to having this conversation from like 18 months ago? The Royals up to the Northland? Well, yeah, we are. The Royals are giving it a second look. Maybe it's a third look or a fourth look or a sixth look. I have no idea. I don't know what look we're on right now. But either way, Northland's back in the mix. And this is largely being driven by the powers that be in Jefferson City, the state legislature. State legislatures out here saying, hey, you know what? Why don't you look at the Northland? Why don't we do everything we can as a state to keep the Chiefs where they're at Arrowhead Stadium, give them what they want, which is that entire Truman Sports Complex, and we want to keep the Royals in Missouri. And, you guys know that these star bonds over in Kansas, if they were that great of a deal, well, you would have left by now. You wouldn't be going down to the wire here with the June 30th deadline. So why don't you look up north? Now, you might be sitting there and saying to yourself, but wait, didn't Quentin Lucas say there's $1 billion on the table from the city? Yeah, I'm just here to tell you, most people I've talked to believes that they think that is like napkin math. That's what they think it is. And they know it's that too. The numbers just don't add up. Do with that what you want. But now the push from the state is going to be, hey, if you want a little help, look up north. And that may be why there was this poll that was being sent out to Clay County residents over the weekend where they were suddenly being asked about a half-cent sales tax. Now, remember, when this first came up in the conversation about looking up north, the Royals apparently were telling the folks up in Clay County, we need a full penny sales tax. That's a big nut. I mean, that is just too big of a number to ask for a county that is not going to be all in on taxing regular folks for stadiums. You might get away with a half cent. You weren't going to get away with a full penny. So now that's why the poll that was being sent out to residents was largely about, hey, what about a half cent sales tax? That raises upwards of, maybe $200, $300, $400 on a high end $1 million. And it gives them something to work with. Maybe the state can kick in a little something, and you're off to the races. You've got that location, the old bowling alley in North KC, due south of Chapels. That's long been discussed, of course, as the place that the Royals would theoretically build. You have a bit of a downtown feel. I mean, it's not the Crossroads. It's not Washington Square Park. It's not even the East Village. But it's also not 119th and Knoll, as was suggested by Basset Hound Bob Fesco. Sorry, I mean, I couldn't help myself. Anyone who calls themselves Bulldog, what do we do, Beagle Bob? I mean, what do we want to call him here? I don't know. I'm trying to think of something. I like
Basset Hound because they do the howling. Oh.
Yeah, I also looked it up. Basset Hounds are one of the 10 dumbest breeds of dogs, so it seems like it might be appropriate. A little long on the Basset Hound. I thought of Basset Hound or Beagle before the show. Either way, I'm happy to have fun with that. Anybody who calls themselves a bulldog and a dog in general, you got to have some fun with that. And then when they just totally bury themselves and talk about how 119th and Knoll for the Royals is a done deal, oh my gosh. Talk about looking like a horse's rear end. It's just too good. So if you're John Sherman and you're like, man, I've got this dream of downtown baseball, but for just so many different reasons, I don't think it's going to work. Well, North KC is a heck of a 1A or 1B. Certainly better than sitting out in a field in the Legends. 119th and Knoll has never made sense for a multitude of reasons. So that there makes a lot of sense to me. Now, there was this video that also was dropped yesterday, and this came out of nowhere. And credit to Keatsman. He and I spoke last night, and he sent this my way. It was up on YouTube, but like absolutely nobody had seen it. When he sent it to me, it had like 70 some odd views on YouTube. And as of this morning, it's got 300 views. I mean, this is nothing. And it was a video put out by the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. And the video, well, I got it for you here. Let's take a listen to what it sounds like.
Greater Kansas City's business and civic organizations are united in a singular mission to ensure the Chiefs and Royals remain in our region for decades to come. But time is not on our side.
Which is why we urge our state and local leaders across the region and both teams to work together to create solutions that offer viable options for growth and success into the future.
While both teams are working hard to evaluate their future in KC, other markets are actively competing to lure them away.
To keep these cherished franchises in KC, we need strong, realistic, public-private partnerships that make staying home in our region the only choice.
Sports are vital to Kansas City's identity and history. It's in our DNA. The Royals and Chiefs are key to our region's economic vitality and visibility across the nation and the world.
Now is the time for our KC region to rally.
To protect the championship legacy we've built together.
To secure our region's future as a premier sports destination.
Let's keep the KC region Major League for today and for generations to come.
All right, so that video is put out by the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. You've got people on the Sports Commission, Kathy Nelson in that video, some other folks, Lisa Ginter in the video as well, Rob Bratcher, who is with the KC ADC, that's the Kansas City Area Development Council. You've got some other chamber folks, Leslie Fields quoted in here. I don't get the point of the video unless the goal is to suddenly bring up the idea of finally admitting that these teams probably have to split up. They probably cannot both stay in Jackson County and Kansas City, Missouri, despite what Quentin Lucas has insisted. And I'm not saying he's wrong to insist that at all. I mean, he's the mayor. He should want them to stay in Kansas City. And frankly, there are a lot of benefits to these two teams staying in Kansas City. But the chamber basically, as far as I can tell, stabbed the mayor in the back here. Not that they owe him anything, but they're basically saying, you know what? Maybe they both shouldn't stay where they're at when it comes to the geography of Kansas City, Missouri, and Jackson County. Now, does that mean someone looks up north? Does that mean a team or two look to the other side of state line? I don't know. I mean, nothing really came out of this, but that's kind of typical for these organizations. It's all about, feel-good, happy talk. It's not about oftentimes action. So I'm not certain what it was trying to persuade somebody of. Is it trying to persuade the taxpayer in Clay County, hey, take one for the team, pass a half-cent sales tax? I don't know, but most of the people in the video, the average Kansas Citian couldn't pick out of a lineup if they tried. And it hasn't it just got more people just heard it 2 minutes ago right here on KCMO by a long shot than saw this thing on YouTube over the last 48 hours. So I can't really tell what the purpose was outside of basically admitting what we all know to be true. And something that we've been talking about here on KCMO for months at this point. 913-408-7957. Stephen's in Kansas City. Go ahead. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete, I think you're kind of 50% right and 50% wrong here.
I'll take it.
I've always thought that this is how it's going to end up, that the Chiefs are going to swoop in and take the other side of the Truman Sports Complex on the cheap. They're just waiting. The reason they're waiting so long is they're trying to get the best deal to swoop up and take Kaufman.
Well, they can't take anything until the team that's there now leaves.
Oh, they will. Yeah, they will.
I know, but you're acting like they're waiting on a deal. There's no deal. They're playing baseball there right now.
Well, I'm just saying that the Kaufman, they've indicated that they're going. Now, I don't know how you figure out that North KC is better than the Legends. That's nuts. I mean, people do not want to drive. I hate to say it, North Kansas City is great, but but that would just be further away from your clientele. Ideally, you want this thing at 119th and Metcalf. They're not going to get that. So it's going to be the Legends. I mean, it's going to end up being the Legends just because it's easiest to get to. I don't want to. I don't want to drive to North Kansas. Nobody wants. It's the same problem as downtown.
Well, it depends where you are, because I talked to a couple people yesterday, and they've got a little bit of pull in this whole deal, and they're like, "Trust me, folks in Jackson County, Lee Summit, Eastern Jack, forget it. You think they want to drive out to the Legends and drive home after a game? I mean, it's arguably geographically far less convenient for a bulk of the metro than North KC is."
Well, Joco makes the rules, and Joco is the money, and that's at the end of the day, that's what's going to happen. Sorry, North Kansas City and Missouri, but it's going to the Legends.
Listen, John Sherman has been talking. Thank you, Steve, for 3 years about this idea of a downtown feel. Nothing gives you less of a downtown feel than baseball in a field. I mean, if you're going for the Field of Dreams thing, I guess that might work. Put up some bleachers, put some dirt on the ground, and bring in Kevin Costner for a guest appearance. I guess that may work.
Legends is Kansas version of the Truman Sports Complex.
Yeah, I mean,
essentially.
Yeah, that's all you're doing, right? All you're doing is literally taking the feel of the Truman Sports Complex, moving maybe 15 miles west, give or take, and trying to put lipstick on a pig by saying, well, we got these new fancy restaurants you can go eat at. Okay, cool, thanks, but I'm not getting any kind of a downtown feel that we were insistent is the main reason that this move has to happen, along with the concrete cancer. I don't want to forget about the concrete cancer either, John.
Was it opening day when we were talking with Mr. Sherman about density?
Yeah, yes, right. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Good point. That was, I thought, one of his most interesting lines in our interview with John Sherman when he came on the show on opening day. He didn't focus as much on the word downtown as he did on density. And of all the options, nothing screams less density than going out to Wyandotte County. And I'm telling you, I mean, just think about how business works. We're now, over a year in the Star bonds being on the table? We're up against the deadline and nobody's jumped at them? Ask yourself why that might be. Just step back, strip out the emotion, Kansas, Missouri. Ask yourself why that might be. Because maybe it's not all they're hyped up to be. Maybe they've actually crunched the numbers. The billionaires have had really smart people crunch some numbers, and they've come to the conclusion of, I'll use it for leverage, but I really don't want to do it. I'll do my Biden whisper. I really don't want to do it, man.
God save the Queen, man.
913-408-7957. Happy Tuesday. Glad you're here. Oh, you know what today is, right? Do I have to remind you? All right. We'll do it. Coming up on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. Yeah, that's today. It's tax day. Good morning. I hate to break it to you. Run to your local accountant if you haven't done anything about it yet. At least file for your extension. But yeah, it's tax day. I know. None of us want to be reminded of that. I found out, the ultimate goal when you're filing your taxes is to get nothing back. I know some of you might be like, no, I love that big old refund check, and it feels so good. All it means is that you lent your government your money at no interest. They are giving you your money back, and your money is less valuable than it was a year ago when you made it. You gave it to them interest-free, John.
Well, and you're also welcome to return it to them for your favorite program that is now shrinking according to your estimation, right?
Well, that's true as well.
Nobody's doing that, though.
No, it's amazing how that works. Those people who love, taxes never want their own taxes to go up, right? They're fine with other people paying more taxes to pay for all their favorite pet programs. But when it comes to their taxes, no, not me. I didn't mean like me. But if you want to, just write a check to your government. I'm sure they'll gladly take it. I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't say no. Or you could create a PAC that would fund your favorite government program. Here's a novel concept through the private sector, through the free market. Whoa.
Talk about a bombshell.
Oh, my goodness. Crazy idea, I know. But, yeah, today is obviously a tax day. So for the first time in several years, I found out that I was going to be getting some money back, like more, not a couple $100. And I was pissed about it because it's like, this is not what I wanted. This means that I lent the government my money and now they're giving it back to me. And because of inflation, that money is worth less than it was 1 year ago when I made it. So I'm not sitting here doing cartwheels about any of this.
It might be the third child, too, because the same thing happened to me.
Oh, maybe but your kid was born technically in 2023.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, but the more children you have, the more...
Oh, the tax credits and stuff get bigger. Okay, that's a good point. I wonder if we should thank President Trump for that, if that was part of his tax bill. More kids you have, better off you are with the rebates and stuff.
Such a nice man.
It might be credit to him. But actually, if you want to spur, children in this country, which we desperately need, right? People aren't having enough babies. We know that the replacement rate for children is below 2, which obviously is not sustainable. The government, they won't do this. Obviously, they're going to extend the Trump tax cuts from 2017. That's what Congress will do here in the next couple of months. If you really want to see people get back to some family values, you can make it so that depending on how many kids you have, your income taxes go down. Your bracket goes down. Could you imagine that? If there were, we're not talking about just getting, your rebates or your tax credits. Forget the credit. I'm talking about your income tax bracket, the percent that you have to pay your government dramatically decreases based on how many children you have. Now, some people might be reckless, but I think that would be actually a major benefit. Now, the problem for someone like Elon Musk is he's so rich, he'd then be getting paid by the government because he's got 25 kids at this point. But, for the average worker, this has potentially a lot of upside, John.
You can call and ask for the Nick Cannon deal as well, right?
Yeah. You got to make it within the rules with one person.
Yes. That's the other thing, too. There's got to also be ties to married with kids. That's got to be, it can't just be, hey, I'm Tyreek Hill, I don't want to pay taxes, so I'm going to keep knocking people up. All right, we can't be doing that. I don't want any of that. You're right. It does have to be tied to, a spouse. The children they don't have to all be with the same spouse. That would be ideal. But at least we're talking about a united married family and working it out from there. And also, I always dream of the day where we're doing our taxes on a postcard. Ted Cruz once proposed that. The problem is the lobbyists on both sides won't allow it. Republican and Democrat lobbyists will not allow it. And that's a loss for the American people. News coming up in 2 minutes. The big press conference yesterday in this town was about what? We'll tell you next. Yeah, I know the criminals were on the edge of their seats in this town yesterday watching that press conference between the mayor and the police chief, and they were shaking in their boots, man. Every single one of them. They're like, oh, boy, now they mean business. Now they mean business. I'm not knocking the mayor or the police chief for doing this press conference yesterday after a Kansas City, Missouri police officer was run over by an ATV on Saturday night, 7 p.m. downtown. I'm not. We all know what the purpose of the press conference is. It's to make the general public that does not commit crime feel like the people in charge are doing something about the issues that they're facing. And that's admirable. The problem is, and it's not even this police chief's fault, you could make a case today, it's not even this mayor's fault right now. He's made mistakes on the policing, trust me. I've talked about it. I firmly believe that. I think deep down, never on the air, never on this show, because politicians are in a place right now where they never admit they're wrong. It's kind of the phase of politics we're in today, in 2025. But privately, he might admit to some massive screw-ups when it comes to defunding the police or attempts to do that from 2020 and 2021 and protests on the plaza and the whole thing. But this town now has about a 10-year legacy in a row of basically being soft on crime, largely led by the former prosecutor, who, thank goodness, is no longer here, in Jean Peters Baker. Melissa Johnson, the people I talked to, actually are fairly optimistic on the work that she is attempting to do, but it's not going to turn around tomorrow, right? It's kind of like Trump at the federal level. Doge, whatever you want to look at. It can't happen overnight. And I would argue that this local stuff, like turning around crime in Jackson County, takes even longer based on what this county has been dealing with for the last decade. But yesterday, less than 48 hours after a Kansas City, Missouri police officer has to go to the hospital with serious head injuries after he got run over by an ATV that he was trying to slow down and stop downtown, there was a press conference with Mayor Lucas and Police Chief Stacey Graves. And I'll play a portion of this. This is the package from Channel 9 KMBC. Here's the Cockman, Andy Alcock, on the scene reporting.
Mayor Quentin Lucas and KCPD Chief Stacey Graves were so upset by this incident, they held a special news conference this morning to talk about it.
I mean, come on. They were so upset they went to the podium and they say, "You stop, you thugs. Don't you dare do this ever again."
How dare you?
Seems like it's something, the picture and all might have been released before Monday morning, though. And, you know, it happened, Saturday evening?
Yeah, Saturday night, 7 p.m.
Yeah, 7 o'clock. So I don't know. I know that we had the video like Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I don't know why we waited till Monday. It seems like when crimes are committed, your car stolen, things, the quicker you react, the better chance you have, the greater chance you have.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Just the timing seems odd to me.
It does. But it was released yesterday as part of this press conference, and here's what it sounded like.
They also released this photo of the suspect leaving the scene on his ATV.
We had officers out looking to intervene in this very type of behavior, and this is why one of our officers was seriously injured.
The crime is growing down here a little bit. We do everything we can to try to head that off a little bit.
Again, the officer is expected to make a full recovery. So far, the suspect has not been caught.
They got a guy still at large. And if you have not seen the video, it's on the KCMO Talk Radio X account. You see this guy. He's in a mask. I mean, clearly, he's someone who wants to protect his own identity. He's in a mask downtown, 7 p.m., riding his ATV, and he plows right over a police officer. And you see that police officer's head snap back and hit the concrete. Thank goodness he's been released. He's going to be okay, but still, he had serious head injuries coming out of this deal. And they still got somebody who has not been arrested over this case. So, I'm glad that the city is wanting to do something about it. But as Brad Lemon said, the Fraternal Order of Police president yesterday here on KCMO, he said, we don't have the tools legally and we don't have the physical tools that we need. We were at a Back the Blue tour in Lenexa a couple of weeks ago, this Friday. And they had this really cool contraption, and I watched the videos of it, where basically they can stop a car dead in its tracks to avoid chases. Where basically what they do is there's this contraption on the front of the police car. It flips out, and then it's kind of like Spider-Man, where it shoots out like a rope that attaches to the tire, and it stops the car, dead in its tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a piece of equipment that KCPD doesn't have. And they're also in a tough spot where in many cases they can't chase people around this town. So they know they can get away with this stuff. And it's one of the many problems that Kansas City is facing right now when it comes to, these street races and sideshows that are happening all over Kansas City.
Well, and I would counter that not having the right tools, whatever tool he was trying to utilize was probably not effective, right? You might as well give the guy a 9-iron rather than this deflation device. So we certainly need to re-examine the use of that particular tool and say maybe that's not, you gave me a tool, but this isn't the right tool for the right job, that kind of thing.
If you didn't see the video, I mean, the guy's just standing. The cop is standing in the middle of the road. and he just gets run over by this guy who does a wheelie in his ATV. I mean, it's beyond disturbing and screwed up. And, I'm glad that people are taking this seriously right now, but it's like where we started the show, talking about having a baseball stadium somewhere in downtown Kansas City. There's got to be a part of John Sherman and the Royals who see stories like this in the news, and they say, you know what? Do I really want that? 7 p.m. on a Saturday night. It's people walking into a ball game. And yeah, I know they'll have great security around the baseball stadium wherever it is. But it would be naive to not at least think about this in the back of your mind when you're wondering where you want to put a ballpark and where you want to make sure that people are coming 81 nights a year, no matter how good or bad the baseball team is. Say what you want about the K. Say what you want about the Truman Sports Complex. You go there, guess what? I'm in a pretty safe spot right now. I'm kind of on my own island. Granted, what's around you may not be great, but I'm on my own island. I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. People are not going to be thinking about that, based on some of the stories and narratives that have been happening in downtown Kansas City, Missouri for now far too long. And that is a part of this conversation that has not gotten nearly enough attention. And frankly, it's because for a lot of people, they don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to actually look at the ballpark from that angle because they don't want to admit what many of us know to be true. The crime is out of control, not just the homicides. I know they came down last year, but heck, we also know that last year the non-fatal shootings were up. So basically, the criminals were missing last year at a higher rate. That's all it was. And I'd love to see this turn. Because guess what? Who's dealing with the bulk of the crime anyway in Kansas City? It's those who are in poverty. It's the working poor. They're the ones who are dealing with the bulk of the crime in Kansas City anyway. And that's why it's amazing to me that so many who claim to be part of the party of the little guy I've just whistled past the graveyard under the guise and part of the religion that now defines them of wokeness. Well, President Bukaki found himself in the Oval Office yesterday. Sorry, I had to do it. Bukele, the El Salvador president, was in the Oval Office yesterday. There was that goober congressman from California who over the weekend put out a tweet saying, I can't wait for President Bukaki to come down to the Oval Office and meet with our fine president. And then the next day he goes, sorry, that was a spell check error by my phone. Whoops. Yeah, hit the civility bell on him there. It's like, no, dude. And if your phone is correcting a word to Bukaki, well, what are you doing in your spare time? My gosh. So Bukele finds himself in the Oval Office yesterday, and I don't know how genuine this guy is. I just know this much. He went to the school of how to not be Vladimir Zelensky in the Oval Office. This guy watched Zelensky's debacle in the Oval Office a few weeks ago and said, you know what? I am not going to do that. See, it's very easy. Like, think about it. What do you do when you were Donald Trump in front of the world, in front of the U.S. media, in the Oval Office? Well, you make them feel good. You throw them a few softballs. And the icing on the cake is when you question the American media in front of President Trump. I mean, now you're coasting. Now you got them right where you want them, right? If you're talking about how to play Trump, that's how you do it. It's a fairly easy playbook to master. And Zelensky, either because he's stubborn or he's not that bright or maybe a combination of both, didn't know that when he got here a few weeks ago. So Bukele shows up yesterday. He understands it. He gets how to play the game. And, I mean, Trump was smiling from ear to ear yesterday during this back and forth.
We appreciate it. Thanks. Actually, what you're doing with the border is remarkable. It has dropped, 95% 5%. It's incredible. Okay.
Oh, what you're doing, Mr. President, is remarkable. It's incredible. And Trump's like, this is my guy right here. This is my man right here. Oh, give me that Bukaki. This guy says, he's great. Yeah, this Bukele guy, can't get enough of him.
As of this morning, 99%, 99.1% to be exact.
Why are those numbers not in the media?
Well, they get out with the fake news, like CNN over here doesn't want to put them out because they don't like putting out good numbers. They only like putting out because I think they hate our country, actually. But it's a shame. You're right. Isn't that a great question? Why doesn't the media? Why don't they put out numbers?
Yeah, 99%. I mean, it's crazy, right? It's a crazy turnout.
Oh, this is so good. Bukele's just pumping them up. He's like, how do they not report these numbers, Mr. President?
This was going on live right after Kevin got off the air, and he was in here, and we were just laughing at the whole thing. Hilarious.
Bukele knows exactly what he's got to do to get on Trump's good side. And Trump's like, what a great question. Oh, man, what a guy.
Such a nice man.
Oh, man. And then the kicker on the whole story is Bukele is like, Mr. President, you're doing such a great job on the border. And then Trump says, the fake news won't report it. CNN, I think they hate our country. And then after this, little back and forth ends, CNN falls for the trap, goes on the air, and Dana Bash, one of their anchors, announces that they do not, in fact, hate this country. You guys just fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker, man.
Jeff Zeleny, I want to start with you. You are at the White House. Before I get to you, I just want to say, for the record, since we heard President Trump say in the Oval Office that CNN hates our country, CNN does not hate our country. That should go without saying. I've been here for 32 years, and I see a rhetorical device in him trying to say such a thing.
You're right. CNN only hates the country on days that end in Y. Outside of that, they love America. I mean, rah, rah, USA. They love this country outside of, those pesky days that end in Y.
Aren't rhetorical questions to not be answered?
yeah.
Right?
It's like you realize that you are confirming the bias that you well know exists. If you're CNN, you don't actually put out a statement on what he says there because you bring more attention to it. You're putting yourself on defense by being like, no, we don't hate the country. Just ignore it. But man, Trump gets these folks to fall for the trap every single time. So yesterday, did you see J.D. Vance? What happened to him? Poor guy. He's got the Ohio State Buckeyes football team at the White House to celebrate their national championship win. And he's an Ohio State undergrad guy, obviously from Ohio, senator, the whole deal. So this is like his moment. These are his people, right? They hand him the college football playoff trophy, and it snaps or breaks in half. It was the clumsiest thing I had ever seen.
I believe the trophy was in some sort of holder, and so he tried to pick up the holder and didn't realize it was two pieces.
So the trophy was just the top half of that thing he was handed. He didn't realize that they were not attached. So he picks it up from the bottom as if he's holding the trophy, but the actual trophy was on the holder, and they were not attached to each other.
Yep.
So it was a clunky moment, and here's what it sounded like. Whoa! And the crowd gasps.
The Marine Band playing We Are the Champions.
Okay. Oh, that was great. So I'm sitting there, and I'm watching this actually live. It was streaming on, I think Fox had it streaming live. And I'm like, oh, JD, Ryan Day is not going to recruit him for any extra eligibility after seeing that fumble from J.D. Vance. But I actually felt bad for him. Now, people tried to roast him, and I'm like, okay. It's funny. As I put up on X yesterday, J.D. clearly picked the right career because it did look a little clumsy. But some people have no self-awareness. And here's a prime example. Alex Soros. Yeah, you know the name. Son of old George. The billionaire who owns one of our competitors, KMBZ. Yeah, that guy. It's amazing. It's no wonder we're kicking butt when our competitors are owned by the government in National Panhandler Radio and the other one's owned by George Soros. Like, go figure. So Alex Soros, the son of George, shared that video and writes, such an alpha, but maybe he just has never been that close to a trophy before. And I'm like, bro, read the room. It is something to see a billionaire Nepo baby question whether J.D. Vance, an entirely self-made man who served in the Marines, became a senator and then the vice president before the time he was 40, has ever accomplished anything. You can't be serious if you're Alex Soros in that spot. I bet J.D. Vance has never sniffed a trophy, says the son of George Soros to the guy who grew up and wrote a best-selling book over his white trash, parentless upbringing, more or less, and became a Marine, a senator, and a VP by the time he was 40. I mean, tell me you're out of touch without telling me you're out of touch.
And I imagine Alex supports Tim Walz.
Yeah,
that bastion of masculinity.
Yeah. No,
perhaps Alex has got the wrong impression.
The coach.
Coach Walz. Coach, there he is. Where's old Coach? Let's see those Rocket moves there, Coach Tim. Oh, man, that's a great point. Tim Walz. Yeah, guys that have low T, if they don't go to Heartland Men's Health, they just go ask Tim Walz for some of his testosterone if, they got to wait in line or something like that, and he just passes it down.
Alpha male there, yeah. I was thinking.
Can't help but think of Tim Walz. That's an excellent point. And I also saw people saying, why do we do this? Why do we still have these teams go to the White House? I love the tradition. I don't care who's in the White House. I love the tradition because it actually can humanize the politicians. And let's be honest, especially for college athletes, but even pro athletes, when else are these guys going to be at the White House?
There you go.
I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime deal. They're most of the time not super political, but maybe it makes them reassess their engagement in, their country and the political arena. I see zero downside to it. Trump takes out, an hour of his time a few times a year to host a team, especially when it's, young men who got to get engaged. I love it, John.
No politics, like you say. It's the media. It's the audience. It's us.
Yeah.
And make it political.
That's so true. Absolutely true. You're right about that. Well, there was movement down in Jeff City to give Clay County the opportunity to potentially have a professional sports team up in the Northland. This came from the Missouri Senate yesterday, as they passed legislation that would allow Clay County to create a sports complex authority similar to the one that exists right now in Jackson County that controls the leases for both of those teams. So there's a Jackson County Sports Commission. It's a group of individuals who largely are appointed by the governor who oversee the operations and the leases of the Jackson County Sports Complex, where, of course, the K and Arrowhead Stadium are currently located. So this was passed yesterday. It was pushed hard by Northland Senators Maggie Nierenberg and Curtis Gregory. Nierenberg's a Democrat. Gregory's a Republican. He'll be on the show later this morning after Tirade Tuesday, which is right around the corner. 30 minutes. Get those tirades all lined up for 8:35 on a Tuesday on KCMO. So this is now coming on the backs of what happened over the weekend. So this stuff's, it's moving fast. The Northland is back in the picture. That's the broad takeaway. North Kansas City as an option, I believe, for the Royals, is back in the conversation. There's that site, the old bowling alley due south of Chapels, that was getting a lot of attention basically 2 summers ago. That's when I first toured the area, or first toured the site itself, with some folks up in Clay County. And then it basically died. Of course, we all know what happened with the Crossroads spot, and then there was all this talk about Kansas over the last few months. It seems like Kansas may not be the suitable site that people thought it would be, because I believe they would have gone by now if it was that attractive, despite what self-proclaimed Bulldog Bob Fesco on one of the sports stations insisted. What did we agree to call him this morning? Basset Hound Bob?
Basset Hound, yeah.
I think that makes the most sense. I think Basset Hound. We could go Beagle Bob, too. That may be a nice name, but John and Mark like Basset Hound Bob, so I'm good with Basset Hound Bob.
Hear the howling from up the dial.
Oh, there you go. Nice howl there, Mark.
Thank you.
I like that. So Basset Hound Bob insisted 119th and Null was a slam dunk and looked like a horse's rear end after about 5 minutes.
Thinking of NIL logos and things that would look good.
Well, I did look up the 10 dumbest dog breeds, and Basset Hound was on there, so do with that what you will. But Kansas is looking, with each passing day, like it's just sitting there as leverage for the teams on the Missouri side, which makes sense, right? Get whatever leverage you can in business and use it to your advantage. That's the name of the game. And that appears to be all Kansas is being used for right now. And now that Clay County's in the mix, one thing that I shared with you yesterday is that the powers that be in Jeff City are actively pushing the Royals to look up north. And they're actually saying you may get more help from the state if you consider and obviously eventually select Clay County. They believe a couple of things. First off, it spreads the tax base around a little bit because there is conversation around a 0.5-cent sales tax in Clay County if the team does end up there. That's what the poll was about that you got text messages about in Clay County over the weekend. So that's part one of this. And then the other part is, frankly, I think just getting one of these teams out of Jackson County from a political perspective and helping out a county that might be more favorable in the eyes of those in Jeff City, and that would be Clay County. Clay County's not deep red. There's plenty of prominent Democrats who obviously are in the Northland, but even the Democrats in the Northland are not the, wokies that you get in certain parts of Kansas City and forget, the other side of the state. It's an old school blue dog Democrat. Frankly, for lack of a better phrase, normal Democrats reside in the Northland, which is a dying breed. Not a dumb breed like the Basset Hound, but a dying breed is what you would call them. But they do exist, and they're prominent up in Clay County. So there's that political element as well that is part of the conversation here. And I asked Scott Wagner last hour, he's a Clay County commissioner, about what the pulse is out of Jeff City when it comes to the possibility of the Royals looking up north. And here's what he said.
Well, as some may know, we were recently down in Jefferson City to talk about enabling legislation for a Clay County Sports Authority, a very similar tool to what they have in Jackson County. And, our state senators in Clay County were the ones that proposed it. And as I understand it, it went through the Senate now, and that was part of some other legislation, but the idea has made its way through the Senate. So I guess all I can read from that is certainly we have some help in Jefferson City. We'll see what that help creates, but I think, again, the opportunity is there, and everyone can see it. And we're just part of Team Missouri. At the end of the day, what happens with these teams is very much being talked about, negotiated at the state level. Clay County alone isn't going to make anything happen. So our expectation, and I think everyone's expectation, should be that our piece is something that goes with the state's piece, and we'll see if that's enough.
Notice how he said there, that was Scott Wagner, Clay County Commissioner here on KCMO this morning. He said there, ultimately, we're Team Missouri, which means the goal, obviously, from the state's perspective, is to keep the teams on that side of the state line, first and foremost. And then it's like, what's the most, I hate to use the word, but it's just what comes to mind, equitable way to go about doing it? How do we spread some of the love? Now, the other option, and Scott Wagner did mention the Chiefs, but what you're looking at there is a training facility, potentially, if the Chiefs do anything up north. I don't get that at all. If that were to require some type of sales tax, why would a resident pass a sales tax for a training facility? That's got to, and I'm not saying that's part of the equation, but if that's what you're looking at with the Chiefs, why would any resident put a dime towards a training facility? I mean, at least with baseball, you're getting 81 nights a year. There's some pride. Well, the guys get their hamstrings stretched out here. Great, cool.
Oh, I have out-of-town relatives in, and we'll drive by places and go, I paid for that. So, there I was like, wow.
Oh, wow, what a guy you are.
Such a nice man.
Yeah, wow, that's such a nice man, John Anthony. You paid for that. Like, I don't get that. And frankly, I don't get why that would be attractive to the Chiefs. I don't understand. If you're going to have players, it's kind of like you when you pick where you want to live. Right? We're here at Corporate Woods, and I live 10 minutes away. And part of that is because, well, when you're getting up, when we get up, I want to be as close as possible. And when we bought the house, I was 15 minutes away from the old station up in Mission, and now, thankfully, I'm a little bit closer down here. But if you're a player and you've got basically two places to go to work, right? You got the training facility, and then you get the stadium. Having a major gap between how far you're driving for one versus how far you're driving for the other just doesn't make any sense. I don't get the appeal on that front for anybody involved outside of maybe the property owners up there in North Kansas City that just want to get something on that land, which I completely understand. But anybody else involved in that conversation, it doesn't make any sense to me. So it still seems like the overwhelming option for anything up north is going to be the Royals. The question is, does John Sherman want to do that for a guy who has been really insistent from what I hear and what we've heard publicly and what we've also heard privately about getting this team in a true downtown setting? But as you heard him, or maybe you didn't hear him, on this show on opening day a couple of weeks back, the one thing that he changed his tune on a little bit was the word density. Not downtown. He picked a different D word. A lot of options there. But he picked the word density. So if he's backing off of downtown for density, well, North Kansas City is a great fit for a multitude of reasons. And the other thing you don't have to worry about, at least not yet, is thugs and ATVs driving over cops at 7 p.m. on a Saturday night, which just happened down at Truman and Main Street, 7 p.m. the other night. So that's another thing that, check off the box that could be appealing for $1 billion franchise. 913-408-7957. I have been an advocate for North Kansas City, thinking it makes a lot of sense if you're not going to be downtown. Certainly makes way more sense than 119th and Null. I can't think of a worse place. And the Legends. We want density and downtown feel. Let's go to a field. What are you going to have? Field of Dreams? Shoeless Joe walks out of the fields and, Kevin Costner shows up and starts talking to people in the sky. What are we doing here? It just that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So I think Clay County is getting itself back in the mix here. And if the push is from the Missouri legislature to make it happen, then you know what? It's going to get a real look. And it may be ultimately where this team ends up. 913-408-7957. Tirade Tuesday is 20 minutes away. 20 minutes. And I may have to get one off my chest. I may have to get one off my chest real quick before you have your opportunity coming up next on KCMO 95.7 FM. Kevin's going to have some good stadium stuff, I can tell you, coming up at 10 with Kevin Keatsman, uncanceled on 95.7 FM. So this went viral yesterday. Angel Reese is basically, I don't know if you want to say like the Magic Johnson, the Caitlin Clark's Larry Bird. There's just that rivalry in the WNBA. People actually now talk about the WNBA largely because of Caitlin Clark. And Angel Reese, going back to their time in college, has kind of been her villain in some ways. And Reese has embraced that villain card. So there was a podcast that she was on with a female rapper. This is Angel Reese on this podcast with this female rapper, Chrissy and Rock. Never heard of her. No idea who she is. I hope I'm not alone there, fellas. I don't want to feel like, I'm getting old here as I approach the late 30s.
I've got all of her CDs.
I knew it.
I have no clue.
Okay. All right. Good.
Show some RESPICT.
So we're all on the same page. So they were talking about how the WNBA players need to, make some more money, right? Because that's been a thing. But then this came up in the conversation, and I just said, where's the economics 101 here from this group?
For women's sports.
Us getting paid our worth.
Period.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're doing exactly what LeBron is doing, so what's going on?
Sis, I don't ain't got the money for it just yet, but it's coming. It's coming.
Is it? I don't understand
it's
it.
It's a lot that goes into it, but it's coming. Trust me, it's coming.
Now I'll translate that for you in case you missed it.
Please.
Yes, but basically what you have there is Angel Reese talking with this female rapper who goes by the name Christian Rock, and she's saying that her biggest beef is that they're not paid fairly in the WNBA. And then the rapper says, you're doing exactly what LeBron is doing. I mean, I guess from the standpoint of you're both playing basketball, you're doing what LeBron is doing. Like, you know, as I coach kindergarten soccer here, I guess I could tell Claire that she's technically doing what Ronaldo does, right?
I mean, Mark's daughter's got a raise coming.
Yeah, that's right.
Didn't Brielle play some basketball?
Yeah, she loves her hoops. She's a big star. So, I guess that's a great point. We could all use that argument and say, hey, they're doing what LeBron's doing. Claire's doing what, Ronaldo's doing, and the rest is history. So pay them all like LeBron. Pay them all like Ronaldo. That's how it goes, right? Yeah, it's not that simple. Because in the end, and while the WNBA is right now renegotiating their deal, and I hope the players get what they are worth based on the revenues that are being brought into the sport, and there's no doubt the WNBA is growing, right? They're adding teams. Caitlin Clark is helping drive ratings. She may be the Michael Jordan that really helps that league get to the next level. And if she does that, that is great for women's sports. I'm all here for it. But for a league that's been losing money for 30 years, that's been subsidized by the NBA, that argument doesn't hold up. At least it didn't hold up until literally last year. And then you also have to look at it and say, okay, still, what is that going to be worth? It's never going to be worth LeBron James money. It's just that the economics don't add up. And to be like, well, you're doing what LeBron's doing. Not really, because the eyeballs aren't there. That's just math.
I would say, doing the business math, the players would have to pay to get that to balance out.
Based on the last 30 years, that's true. And
also looking at people on the highway here real quick that are driving to work. So Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin at NASCAR, they get a lot of money. So I see a lot of people out there looking for sponsorships right now, right?
I just saw that silver RAV4 drive by 435. They were going nice and straight in the middle lane. Get them a pay raise for driving to work.
That's right. Need a sponsorship for them.
Yeah, you're right about that. Put a big old Pennzoil sticker on the back or something like that. You know, Phillips 66. Get them in the mix. It's not. I'm genuinely not ragging on women's sports. I want women's sports to grow. I got 3 young daughters. I think it would be great, and Kansas City has been at the forefront of that. But you can't sit there, whether you're Angel Reese or this Christian Rock, and say with a straight face that you're LeBron James. You can't say it right now. It's not true. You think about the sports that are most popular in the country, and there is actually one women's sport on a worldwide level that is more popular than the men, and that's Team USA Soccer. The women actually do have more of a draw than the men do just because they've had much more success. What's the storyline there? Success is what people also want to be a part of and want to see. In the case of Team USA Soccer, that's on the world stage. They've had more success than the men have had in World Cups. So they've got that popularity built in. And you see the same thing with certain Olympians, right? Certain Olympians, now those are largely individual sports, but the Olympians, they also get a lot of attention. If you're a gold medalist, if you're Simone Biles, you're popular than 99.9% of the men who end up as Olympians. Because people also like winners on the world stage. So it's all that stuff wrapped into one. It's not simple enough to just simply say, well, we're women, so we're not getting paid enough. And it's all about a gender pay gap. No, it's about what people want to see, what people want to latch onto, what brands want to be a part of, who they want to endorse. And anybody who's thought about this for 5 minutes has come to that very obvious conclusion.